Good afternoon. This is a program that is brought to you by the Stanley County Historical Society. I am Dr. Eric Johnson. I am your host today. Have the distinct pleasure of interviewing Catherine Carol Snuggs, better known as Kay Snuggs, who was a career nurse officer for the United States Air Force, and at which time she served in Vietnam, and I also had served in Vietnam. So welcome, Kay. It's good to have you in your beautiful house. I hope you're doing well today.
Definitely.
She also has a little dog, Bandit, who is sleeping through this. I've already bored Bandit to sleep. So I've got a few general questions. Kay and I have known each other for a long time, so this is more like a friendly chat than an interview. But I was very curious about what and when was your inspiration to become a nurse in the first place?
As a child, only thing I wanted to do was to be a nurse. And my dad had sisters that were nurses, and my mother had sisters that were nurses. So it was just a family thing to be. And I was happy if I had a nurse's kit and I could go out and play.
That's a noble tradition. Where was your training for nursing?
Presbyterian in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
And I graduated from there.
Do you still have any contact with any of your old nursing school grads?
Not
Okay.
recently.
Just wondered. Now, as far as your decision to join the United States Air Force as a nurse, what was your inspiration to become a military nurse?
I became a flight nurse at that one time, and this was a lot of work, but it was worthwhile, everything that you did and at that time, because you could help a patient a little bit that maybe had lost a limb or something, that if you just spoke to him, or he would just say, "Thank you for being here," and he was, and that almost made me cry, because he was on a stretcher and would eventually get back to the States. And I don't know what happened with his family after that.
Where did you receive your flight nurse training?
This was down in close to Texas.
Down towards Texas. Okay. And as a doctor who practiced in medicine 45 years, I never dealt with flight nurses because you were trained in transporting sick and injured people then from one station to another. That's a special training. I have a list here of a number of your duty stations that you served, because you served in a lot of places here. Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico, and Itsuka Air Force Base, Japan, Seymour Johnson Air Force Base here in North Carolina, and the University of Maryland.
Yeah.
You were a turtle up there, huh? And then you were at Homestead Air Force Base in Florida, Eastlawn, probably got that one wrong, didn't I? Eilson Air Force Base, Alaska.
Yeah.
How long were you in Alaska?
When it was cold.
Well, so as soon as it warmed up, you got to leave then, is that correct?
Hopefully, yeah.
Sure. Then you're at Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama, Fields Nursing School in 1968, Flight Nursing School, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. And that's where you told us about your special training there. And then you were off to Vietnam, and you were involved with the Tet Offensive, is that right? That was a very significant time, and so a lot of things, and I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that. Then you came to Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines, and I believe your last duty station was in Japan.
Right.
And then you mustered out at Beale Air Force Base in California.
Yes.
Is that correct? That's a lot of places, and you were in 30 years, and you were to be admired for that. You're a real patriot. Can you tell us a little bit about that you're on an airplane, I believe C-130, that was specially equipped as a hospital plane,
Yes,
that you would come and land at a base in Vietnam, an Air Force base, and there were a number of them scattered around the country. And then you would have to hurry up and load patients onto this plane.
that's true.
And could you explain a little bit about that? What a day would be like?
Well, it wasn't easy, but everyone worked together and got everything done that needed to be done before they would take off. And when they took off, we were gone, and we just, we stayed and with the patients, and if they needed any help, we gave them to them. But we had other guys that were wounded that were in seats on the aircraft in different areas.
So some would be on litters or gurneys, and others that were ambulatory could be put on a seat.
Yeah.
But they needed more intensive medical care than could be rendered at the hospitals in Vietnam.
That's true.
And many of them have IVs running?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Did you ever have to give blood?
I did not, no.
Okay. How many physicians were on the flights?
I didn't see any physicians, but there were a lot of nurses
A lot of nurses.
taking care of everyone.
What was the time that it took from the time you landed the plane? How many hours did it take to fill it up? Maybe 3 or 4, or?
Well, the way things were going, it was filled up real quick.
Okay.
And as soon as you were full, you were gone.
So you had to really be hustling to get all
Yeah.
those on there. And how long was the flight then back to the military hospitals in where, Japan generally?
Well, sometimes to Japan, yes,
Or Philippines? Or?
in the Philippines. It depended on the aircraft
Right.
where they went.
Would that be 3 or 4 hour flight?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. And then you'd get them off in a
Unload and go again.
What would be your turnaround time till the next time you had to board the plane and fly?
Well, the way everything worked, and it was just bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
You just go and go.
So might you make 2 or 3 flights a week sometimes?
Well, it seemed like that, but it might have been longer on some of them.
Okay, okay. How was your experience during the Tet Offensive in 1968?
Well, I didn't really see anything other than the patients that we saw
Right.
taken care of, and that was what the main thing was, to get them back to the States.
And you brought them back regardless if they were
Yeah.
Army, Marines, Navy? You
Yes,
brought-
it didn't matter.
Didn't matter about,
It didn't
transported
matter.
all of them. And while you were on the flight, and they didn't give you luxury cabins, did they, for the nurses to
Oh,
stay?
no.
What were your accommodations on the flight?
Well, you might have a seat somewhere if you could find one.
Yeah, and the menu was sea rations, or what did you have?
Well, we didn't eat much on those things.
Yeah, I'm wondering that. Yeah, we ate, when I was in Vietnam, we ate what are called sea rations, which were packaged in World War II, and we were eating them the ones that weren't eaten during Korea, then we ate them in Vietnam. Okay, well that's been. Did you have any concerns about malaria or any of the tropical diseases over there?
We didn't think about that.
Okay.
The patients were what we were
Okay.
there for.
And so most of your patients were wounds,
Yes,
and as far as burn patients or patients who were sick with, say, malaria or other tropical diseases, did you encounter many of them?
not any, very few.
Okay, okay. You were, I interrupted you, you were telling me about a special patient who'd lost a leg. If you could
Yeah.
really tell me about that, and I'll try to keep a dry eye.
Well, he had part of a leg gone. And when he came back to me at one time, he told me he knew he was coming back to the States and how happy he was to be coming back. And he took my hand and held my hand and thanked me at that moment for what I did. But I felt like it was such a little thing that I did, that holding his hand made him feel secure in a lot of ways that was not known. But it was, I felt good by taking his hand and holding it, because we weren't both crying, but we were both holding our hands together.
No,
And that was a special time.
that is, it's a comfort in a time like that. It was a great gift that you gave that soldier. And that's many times all we can offer some people. After you came back from a war zone, and you came to the States, how were you treated? Did you notice that you were?
Well, I didn't have anybody spit on me, but and that was done a lot to the military men, and of course I think maybe they were afraid to do that with a lady, hopefully, and at that time, but it was sad that they acted that way.
Yeah.
You wanted, really, if I had a gun, I might have shot somebody.
No. It was not a proud time
No.
for our country. It was not. By the way, I'm going to reflect just a little bit. I was located in remote places in Vietnam. I didn't see any. The whole time over there, I saw 2 American women, nurses that got off a helicopter. It happened to be in a big basin, and it was like you were seeing goddesses that you didn't realize that were there. Otherwise, we never saw any American women. But I remember they were nurses. I didn't get to talk to them, but anyway. How was, did you have much of an adjustment getting back to when you got out of 30 years in the military? Did you have much adjustment getting back to civilian
Well, not really,
life?
because I was coming home, and I was very fortunate too that when I came home, that a doctor's nurse was pregnant, and so I got her job working with Dr. Jenkins.
Dr. Larry Jenkins, ophthalmologist.
Yeah.
And that's where I first got to know Kay, was in Dr. Jenkins' office. That was a great office to work in, wasn't it? I'm curious, were you able to then use I know that you also graduated from two more colleges, didn't you? After you got, one in California, which was, what was the name of the college in California?
Oh gee, I can't remember right now. But I went to school at Pfeiffer,
Yeah.
and I graduated from there.
With the distinction of being the oldest graduate in the history of Pfeiffer, because there's an article in this great yearbook, and I'm going to sneak a peek to the name of the college that you graduated from in California. Anyways, it's in here, Chapman College.
Yeah.
So you have 2 college degrees after, so you use the GI Bill for that. Well, I don't know if you have anything else that you wish to talk about today, just because, you know, in a few years, there are not going to be a lot of us Vietnam veterans left. So this is a chance that you may have reflected upon.
Well, one thing that has helped me was with the veterans down at the senior center.
Yes.
It didn't matter, but all of the ones there, they were just gentlemen the whole time that I was there with them during that time. And I'm sorry that right now, we can't be together like we would like to be, because we don't want anybody to have die from something that we have. But these guys have been good the whole time. And there have been women veterans there too at the senior center, which
Right.
is something that usually once a month we would meet and have food. Well, we'd have food, and of course, coffee was the big thing. Everybody had coffee.
That's wonderful. Well, I thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank
And-
you for yours.
And we actually see each other walking in the morning, so Kay and I will continue to talk on a regular basis. But this is, again, Eric Johnson saying thank you very much and goodbye.